Welcome. We're happy you could join us for Election Cybersecurity Assessments. Protect the integrity of your elections. I'm Carrie LeBlanc. I'm the Marketing Director at CyberDefenses. And before we get started, I'd like to share a few words about who we are and the background that we bring to this topic. CyberDefenses is a managed security services provider that has served government and commercial entities since 2001. Our experience across these two sectors gives us a unique understanding of the elections environment and its processes, enabling us to offer customized services such as continuous threat monitoring, incident response, threat intelligence, and more. Runbeck Elections Services has provided high-integrity printing and mailing services to elections organizations since 1972. Security, integrity, and accuracy are central to their processes, their services, and their customer-focused spirit. Runbeck's method marries time-tested best practices with state-of-the-art technologies. So, without further delay, I'd like to turn our presentation over to our two speakers today. Bill O'Neill is the Vice President of Cybersecurity and Consulting at Runbeck, and Damien Fleury is the CTO of CyberDefenses. Bill?
Thanks, Carrie, and thanks everyone for joining. We really appreciate it. We want this, as Carrie mentioned, to be a really interactive session, so if you have any questions, there's a questions from audience section where you can type in any questions you have as we go along. First, let me give you a little background on Runbeck. Some of you may already know Runbeck was founded in 1972. Our focus has always been elections and election services. We provide ballot print and mail services, on-screen duplication software, ballot print-on-demand equipment, incoming ballot sorting equipment, electronic petition management software, election consulting and support, and cybersecurity support is our latest addition. For decades, we've been one of the nation's leading and high-integrity print and mail companies. We provide election printing and mail services for over 125 customers from jurisdictions ranging in size from 1,000 to over 1 million voters. We provide statewide election software in 3 states and growing every year. Our products and services touch nearly 26 million registered voters across the nation. And we provide election support and services in 15 states, and that's growing every year as well. A little more information about how we got to where we are. Runbeck Elections Services has always been innovative. We've always tried to look for areas that our customers could use additional help and additional support, and then tailor a unique offering for the election space for that. Our vision is to support democracy by improving how elections are accomplished in America. In line with that vision, in 2007, we introduced the Centio ballot production system, which is a ballot print-on-demand system. In 2012, we introduced the Agilis sorting system, which is an incoming sorting system. Then we introduced the Simulo software product in 2013 that handles ballots that are generated through an online ballot generation program similar to Democracy Live or Everyone Counts system. We can automatically develop ballots from that. We came up with the Novus ballot duplication system, which is an on-screen duplication system. And then we introduced the VOSM petition management system in 2016. So we're continually trying to improve how elections are run and help our customers with the administration of those elections. We got to the point of doing cybersecurity and support because in 2016, at the end of the year, there was a lot of information coming out about potential hacking of election systems. So we decided as a company to look at ourselves and be proactive to see if there's something we could do to be better prepared and better secured as a company to protect our customers and our customers' information. So we went through a full end-to-end audit of all of our processes and procedures, our electronic entry points, our data storage, the encryption of data, and we had this company do everything they could to ensure that we were as protected as we could be. It was no holds barred. We told them, don't leave any stone unturned. There's no egos involved. We want to make sure we're secure. There's no, there was just absolutely nothing that we didn't want them to look at. At the end of that process, we learned what we were doing well, and we needed to continue to do well, and things that we could absolutely improve to improve our cyber security efforts. Since then, we've had monthly monitoring to ensure that Anything going on in our network or coming or going from our network is watched 24/7 to ensure that nothing is additionally happening. And then cybersecurity is a continuous improvement. As the bad actors find ways to get in and do different things, we're continually making changes to ensure we're tough. So what we decided to do as we shared this information with customers was the customers were saying, you know, we're getting all this information from DHS, we're getting all this information from the Secretaries of State and other folks, and it's not our job. We're not great at being cybersecurity experts. We're getting overwhelmed with stuff we don't understand or don't know what to do with. We're relying on our IT folks, but they're also spread very thin. So we decided to take our elections expertise and partner with CyberDefenses to ensure that we could offer cybersecurity to our customers and potential new customers that they couldn't get anywhere else. So we spent months training the CyberDefenses folks on what elections is and why cybersecurity is so specific to elections and why it's so important to elections. This is an offering that is tailored to the elections world. There are no other companies that I'm aware of that have done this type of work. So when we come in, we understand elections and elections processes, and we understand where to look for the holes, the gaps, the weaknesses, and the potential areas of strength to ensure that you are totally protected in the election space. And we found a partnership that combines security expertise and government experience. We wanted an industry leader with all the good, proper certifications. They have folks that have secret and top secret clearances so they can work with the DHS and the FBI if needed. A thorough and mature training program so that staff in the elections department can be thoroughly trained on cybersecurity and what cybersecurity means for them sitting at their desk receiving emails and going out on the internet. So that training is critical to that. And then, of course, the perfect blend of election experience and cybersecurity expertise. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today, and I'll turn it over to Damon to give you a little bit of background on CyberDefenses and why they are, our really trusted partner. Damon?
Thank you, Bill. Good morning, everyone. Just a little bit of background on CyberDefenses, and then we can talk a good bit more on how we're approaching helping to solve the election cybersecurity problem. CyberDefenses, we've been around ourselves for about 17 years. We were founded by folks that come from the military, come from the Army and the Texas National Guard, with a long history of doing cybersecurity assessments, responding to September 11th with cybersecurity assessments, and particularly in particularly secure areas, and helping to secure the battlefields that we've been engaged with as a nation around the world. And since the time that the company was founded, starting in 2001, we've really been very engaged in the federal market, and today still the federal sector is our largest sector, and we have quite a few services professionals that work at military bases all over the country. We also have offerings in security operations, which will be primarily what we talk about today, and we also have an identity and access management practice where we have the ability to help secure your organization from an identity and access perspective, regardless of which tools you are using there. And then the academy itself, and we'll talk a bit more about the academy and how training is a key and integral part of our services offering. So we're really, at the end of the day, a broad-scale cybersecurity services organization, and we're very excited to take our long history and to help to partner with the folks at Runbeck and bring a very focused elections and security suite. And I talked a little bit about the types of organizations that we serve today. The Air Force is still our largest client, as well as DISA. We have quite a few folks serving security centers and help desks within those organizations. And we also have two of the nation's large oil and gas companies, a couple of the nation's large insurance companies, and quite a few small, mid-sized organizations, including municipalities and counties already that need cybersecurity services. And so really taking this level of service and focusing it very specifically on elections is a very natural step for us, and one that we're very interested in working with you on. So when we approach any cybersecurity problem from within CyberDefenses, we really believe that we have to bring all three of these pillars that you can see on your screen to the table. It's in order to help you understand what's your cybersecurity issue, whether it's an elections issue or a general security issue, you must first really get the guidance that you need. If you've been watching the press and the news out there, then you've seen a lot of activity in the election space around what they call a cyber navigator. And well, we've been doing this for quite a few years. We've called this role the fractional CISO, or we're providing general CISO guidance. So, through this and through with the Cyber Navigator functionality, we're able to provide extra support and help to understand what is the challenge that is facing elections, and how are you as an organization able to respond to that. Then, in addition to the guidance piece, we always bring to the table cybersecurity services. This ranges from help with assessing and managing your environment, as well as monitoring over the long haul. And then we offer additional threat hunting services as part of every monitoring engagement, and incident response and digital forensics is a piece of that as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of these services as we go forward, and some of the unique aspects of services that we also offer. And then the last piece that we would like to that I'd like to point out here is the academy piece of this, right? We offer through our CyberDefenses Academy training and the ability to understand training from the perspective of guidance, as well as the security individuals, helping folks to get training in how to go through an attack that might be occurring in their environment. And we even offer training on specific compliances, so that an individual that needs the help to understand what their compliance, where they are from a compliance perspective with a NIST specification or with the CIS and best practices, our training offers the ability for those individuals to get trained in how to perform those assessments and how to deliver whatever gap analysis or reporting is required. And so we offer this kind of broad range of training, as well as training with general cybersecurity certifications that are required to the general public. And we're very excited to be developing elections-focused training that will be rolled out with Runback through the coming months as we continue to develop our offering for cybersecurity elections. So let's shift gear and specifically talk through elections assessments. So with this offering with Runback, we are offering a broad range of cybersecurity services, but in every engagement we've had so far with counties or with states, we are really beginning each of these engagements with a cybersecurity assessment, and we really think that that's the first step to understanding what is needed from a general cybersecurity standpoint, and to really evaluate everything that's going on within your elections environment. And we'll talk a little bit about how we believe this is a very comprehensive assessment. And at the end of this, our goal is to give you everything that you need to understand, are you secure today? Does a threat exist within your environment? And then do your processes and your procedures provide the necessary support to close as many doors as possible to make sure that if you can, you've closed all the doors so that you are not vulnerable to cyber attack. And then we'll develop that as a roadmap that you can execute on as you go forward. So at the end of the day, our cybersecurity elections assessment provides detailed testing analysis by our very experienced cybersecurity team of experts. We come on site. We work directly with you, performing penetration tests and doing direct analysis of your environment, looking for malware and compromises. We'll do a full review of the internet and the darknet for potential threats. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a couple of slides. And a detailed review of all of your processes, all of your procedures and practices, and compared to all the published standards that are out there, as well as our own best practices that we've developed from years in the industry. And we'll also do a review of the training and the practices that your team is living out day to day, with the end goal of really understanding, is your election system as secure as it can be? So when we do this, we've gone through a lot. We've gone through many elections environments now with the Runbeck team, and really getting a really good understanding of all the various pieces that must be secured in order for you to have confidence that you provide the best security possible for your elections process. And this really goes much further than the voting system. The voting system obviously gets a lot of press, and it is certainly important. But many counties have already taken a lot of steps to really try to isolate those voting systems and have very thorough processes. And so a lot of what we're going to do with respect to voting systems is validate those processes and make sure they're following those. But the entire elections assessment covers much more than that. If you look at the image on the screen here, we will start by looking at your elections management systems, and this really refers to how are you as a leader of the elections, as a registrar or clerk or part of the elections process, how do you communicate and manage with your staff, with other members of the county? Do you have proper security around your email, around all the various ways you store documents? And, is it possible for someone to come in and gain access to communication and help to disrupt, or just as damaging to embarrass the county or the state in the way that those things are being managed? It's an interesting higher bar that elections are facing here than many organizations, because it's not okay just to keep malware and to keep the integrity of the count okay. The way that the public perception has grown, any type of cyber attack that infiltrates any aspect of the county election process is going to bring into question, the county's or the state's ability to manage that election. And that perception problem can create as many issues as an actual change of the vote. And so at the end of the day, this elections assessment is going as far as it can possibly go in understanding, how do you communicate? How do you work with all of your colleagues and peers? And really using the best practices available today and the best tools that you can to make sure that we understand the security of all of those. So elections management systems, we will do a review of those and an understanding of how the election is managed and how the team is performing their management functions. The election team support, we will look at every PC and every device that is being used by election staff that may house or touch or come into contact with aspects of the election, making sure that there's the appropriate level of controls and understanding of how those devices are working. These steps particularly, but many of these steps will require very deep interaction with the county or the state IT department, because those types of devices are typically managed by county or managed by some other larger IT organization. And our job is to come in and help understand, are they secure today, and could more steps be taken to isolate and protect the election system, to obviously protect the integrity of the entire elections process. Voter registration systems, if you're looking at the information out there today, this is a key concern across many states for the vulnerabilities that come, because voter registration systems are often managed between the state and all the counties in the state, and that provides many angles of attack where those, the list, the voter registration rolls and any of the associated information, even if it's generally available information, that information is being hacked and stolen by some parties that are out there and published. Even though the information isn't thought to be sensitive, just it being published out there is creating perception issues. And so getting control of that and making sure it's not coming from your systems, that any system that is used to access and control voter registration data is being properly controlled. That's another key part of this assessment. Poll book devices and voter check-in, we'll do a full analysis of how that process works in those devices. The ballot creation and distribution, we have found that through our analysis, in many cases, ballot creation and management is a part that isn't often looked at in an assessment. Where are the ballots being created? What's the integrity of those systems? How are they being stored in an encrypted capacity? If external vendors are used, are those vendors assessed? And is the entire ballot creation and delivery process, whether it's electronic or whether it's a publication, a printed publication, is there a good understanding of those processes, and are the right controls in place to make sure that a hacker couldn't come in and change ballots in specific precincts, thereby invalidating someone's vote? Vote capture devices, really this comes down to making sure vote capture devices are controlled and used correctly, not just through the actual election time with proper isolation and controls, but all through their lifespan. And when those devices are put away for the off season, when there's not an election process, how are they controlled and how are they verified? And then going deeper of once the device is brought back to the county facility, how is it cleaned and how is it taken care of to make sure that no voter information can be taken off of that device at any point in the future that may provide any additional information to an attacker or to embarrass the county itself. And then vote tabulation systems. We have found that most counties do have pretty good processes around isolating a vote tabulation system, but there are still additional steps in making sure that their efforts to create an isolated and controlled environment are carried out year-round and that they are fully implemented, that there are not other ways that, that a potential attacker or adversary could get access to those environments. And then the last one being the election results publishing system. We already, in our initial analyses, have found several problems with the way that data is taken from tabulations and then reported to the various state entities and what levels of controls there are across those processes. So as we look at these assessments, we're looking at all of these different voting systems that we refer to them as, and we look at their maturity, we look at whether they follow best practices that are out there, and we're looking at them from the perspective of the same standards that DHS is using, the same standards that the Center for Internet Security publishes from their best practices, and then everything is based on the NIST Cybersecurity Framework and the maturity indexes placed on top of that. So we're using industry standard ways to understand the requirements, and then we're supplementing those with best practices. And you can do some of this with DHS today, and we understand that the DHS will go through these processes with you, but it requires that you understand all of these things, and you can understand their questions and questionnaires, and then they'll give you back a score. We will come in and we will get all of these answers, and if you don't know the answers, we will physically measure the results and very proactively in a very short time period give you the data that you need to understand your cybersecurity stance today. So, this is when we perform an assessment for each of those systems, we are using the NIST Cybersecurity Framework Cyber Assessment Criteria, and it really focuses around understanding the maturity of your ability to identify, protect, detect, and respond to threats. And within each of those, there are various elements that we will dig in and understand with hundreds of controls that we're going to be evaluating across all of those systems. When we perform an assessment, we have a member of the team we call the fractional CISO. Also, we referred to it earlier as a cyber navigator. This individual is a person that has served as a chief information security officer in organizations like yours, and in this case has state and county level experience, and particularly even with elections. That individual is going to lead the security and assessment effort and come on site and go through all the various aspects of your processes with you and go through an interview process for the election staff and for some part of the IT staff to understand really what security controls are in place. And then they'll be there to perform that technical evaluation, but to answer your questions about what's good enough and what's not good enough. And that wealth of experience and background is very important to really giving us the knowledge we need to help to assess your own abilities to provide cybersecurity. There's a full cybersecurity resiliency review of all of those processes, as I mentioned, versus DHS and CIS guidelines. And then we also have a team that joins the fractional CISO, a technical team, that they come on and they come on site and they do a cyber threat detection assessment. And this goes beyond what other elections assessments provide, where they are physically touching your devices, and they're physically touching your devices, looking specifically for malware, for any indicators of compromise, and then performing direct assessments of all of those infrastructures, doing penetration testing on your isolation environment, doing penetration testing on any external-facing websites, and then identifying potential angles of attack for adversaries. We also have a threat intelligence team that will look through the darknet, the criminal parts of the internet, as well as the public-facing internet, and constantly be evaluating through the assessment process whether there is any chatter amongst the hacktivist communities or amongst the adversaries that are talking online, even through the criminal parts of the internet. And we use all of that data to help us understand, could anyone be specifically trying to target your environment or target your specific election for one reason or another. And then that data helps us bring everything back and make sure that we understand the security of your environment, from touching the devices, from evaluating the network, from penetration testing of every angle to get into the elections department or into those devices, and then even from the outside world of whether we can find any clues that specific attackers or adversaries might be trying to target the specific elections process. And then we also supplement all this with social engineering attacks of the simulated attacks of the of the environment where we will, specifically make phone calls or do phishing attempts of the staff, seeing if we can get past any processes and training that's already in place. So you can see it's a very comprehensive process of looking at your entire environment and doing a full review against industry standards and our best practices, and then doing an actual hands-on review to make sure that there are not existing issues in your current environment as well as in your systems. So one thing that I wanted to touch on just a little bit is the external threat intelligence piece of this. We really perform with each of these assessments. We do a deep scan of the public-facing internet, the dark net, with our threat intelligence experts, and we produce a very formal report that helps you to understand how the outside world sees your environment and your organization from the internet's perspective and from the dark net's perspective. And then we offer that not only as an assessment, but as a monitoring service. And I'm not going to try to go through all of the pieces of this that we go through. You can see them on your screen. If you want to get into the technology of the scans that we perform through our vulnerability and malware, public information, risk, and exposure scans. It's a very long name. I apologize for that. But I will say that even, we have found in working with counties already that there's very little understanding by most organizations of how much is out there on the dark net being traded about your county or about your election staff. And we, with very quick scans and analysis, we are able to go out there and find tons and tons of stolen email addresses and passwords that relate back to every county and every organization that's out there. If you've had email for more than 3 to 5 years, then there are absolutely versions of credentials and some stolen information that's relative to your environment. In most cases, it didn't come directly from you, but it certainly can still impact you. This is a key part of our assessment, and we are happy to offer an initial free scan to anybody that's interested in it that would like to talk a little more about it. We can use our threat intelligence team and do a quick scan of your particular elections department and county and come back with sets of stolen information, usually email addresses and passwords is what we commonly find. Happy to look at that data with you and help you to understand what you can do to better secure your environment with that knowledge and data. So if you're interested in that, please do send an email to us or reach out to us or directly to Bill O'Neill at boneil@runbeck.net, and we'll get you set up for a very quick turnaround, a quick scan, and then get on the phone with you to help you understand what the data is that you're looking at. So, that's in a nutshell the assessment process. And when we work with counties, we do offer a full set of services. So what you'll get at the end of this assessment is a very detailed report, including, all the gaps that were found, including specific recommendations that can be implemented so that you can improve your security. And then we're happy to work with you on a continuing basis to close those holes or to add the monitoring that's really needed to understand your security going forward. And so, we would love the opportunity to talk about this a little bit more and to understand how we could engage for the assessment, or even from a cyber navigator perspective, or from the perspective of ongoing services if your county requires that. Bill, you want to take these last slide or two?
Yeah, so thank you, Damon. So just to touch on a couple of things, the funding that's been approved through the recent omnibus bill and is going to EAC is going to be distributed as HAVA 101 funds. And we've been working with secretaries of state and the election boards in various states to ensure that funding is available for these types of services. And so far, every state is saying that these funds will be available so that the counties and states can take advantage of these services and use those funds to get the assessment done, as well as to get any additional training and monthly monitoring that they'd like to get done to ensure that they are secure. Because again, a lot of this is just to try to disrupt the process, as they did in Tennessee with a denial of service attack. It was just to disrupt. And a lot are trying to get in and get those voter rolls, as Damon had mentioned. And with the scan, the darknet scan, just real quickly, we found credentials in some counties where as much as 3,500 users' credentials were on the dark web being traded with usernames and passwords. So please feel free to take advantage of that and reach out to me. Again, we've got over 45 years of elections experience, and CyberDefenses has extensive cyber government, military, and private sector experience. So we really feel like it's a perfect partnership of our elections experience and their cybersecurity experience. So again, I just want to thank everybody for being on the call and seeing what we have to offer, and reach out to me at boneil@runbeck.net. Or my phone number, my direct line is 480-455-1040. And don't hesitate if you just have questions or want some follow-up information or are just wondering, about some of the information that you're getting from various organizations. With that, I want to say thank you, and I'll turn it back over to Carrie to close us out.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Damon, and also thank you to everyone who has joined us today. I just want to remind everyone to watch your inbox. You will receive a recording of the webinar, so if there are sections of the content that you want to revisit, you will be able to do that. And also, we encourage you to share this with colleagues. As we have mentioned before, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you once again.